This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Security heightened in Kismayo, Somalia after 26 died during terrorist attack. Libyan parliamentarians meet in Cairo to unite Libyan factions. And Beijing hosts China-Africa Peace and Security Forum. Hello and welcome to CGTN. This is Africa Live and I'm Karen Roberts in Nairobi, also coming up in the programme. Egypt opens two of its oldest pyramids to visitors for the first time in 54 years. And in sport, Nigeria's Super Eagles prepare for Algeria in Sunday's second semi-final at the Africa Cup of Nations. We start in Somalia, where the government has intensified security in Kismayo following a terrorist attack on Friday that killed 26 people. CGTN's Abdulaziz Billo reports now from Mogadishu.
On Friday, militant group Al-Shabaab detonated a car bomb inside this hotel in southern Somalia before heavily armed attackers stormed the facility and engaged security forces in a gun battle that lasted more than 10 hours. It's the deadliest attack to rock the port city 6 years after Allied forces dislodged Al-Shabaab from Kismayo, a strategic port city that for years served as a financial hub for the Al-Qaeda-linked group. At the time of the attacks, regional politicians and clan elders were inside the hotel discussing an upcoming regional election that has since attracted many candidates, a move authorities say distracted the region from focusing on security matters.
The area used to be peaceful in the past, but because of the fact that the administration became too politically focused, the security became a problem and indicates the government's failure to do something about the security problems in the country. Motive for this kind of an attack in an area that essentially enjoyed peace is an indicative of the intention of those who carried out the attack to be just kind of a disruption.
Security forces managed to neutralize two attackers and arrested the third, who was injured. Investigations now reveal that the gunmen disguised as members of the police before launching the attack. 10 foreigners, including Kenyans, Tanzanians, Britons, American and a Canadian, were among those killed in the attack that shocked the entire nation. 2 Chinese nationals wounded in the attacks were also airlifted to Mogadishu. The duo were in the country alongside investors from neighboring countries to assess the country's fishing sector. The regional leader now wants increased security ahead of elections next month.
I call on the security forces to increase surveillance to prevent a repeat of this kind of terrorist attack, especially now as we're headed towards elections. I also appeal to the public to provide relevant information to the security forces to thwart potential threats to security.
A presidential candidate in the upcoming regional elections was also among those killed in Friday's attack. But it's the death of Hodan Naleh, a renowned media personality, that shocked many here in the country and abroad.
You're watching the best of Somalia as we show you around this beautiful town. Hello, Gabdo, Sodawada, Kismayo.
Hodan was killed alongside her husband Farid Jama Suleiman. The media personality had recently returned from Canada to focus on the positive stories and inspire young Somalis around the world to help rebuild their country. Social media has seen an outpouring of grief for the television personality who died while trying to change the decades-long narrative that portrayed a country in a negative way. Abdulaziz Billo, CGTN, Mogadishu, Somalia.
Cairo is hosting a 3-day conference on Libya. The Egyptian capital has invited Libyan MPs from the east and the west to help create a roadmap to peace. Egypt is known for supporting the eastern government as well as the LNA forces attempting to seize the Libyan capital, Tripoli. As a result, a significant number of Islamist groups which back the Western-based government in Tripoli have refrained from participating. CGTN's Adel El Makhrouhi has more.
The Egyptian parliament has opened its doors to welcome Libyan parliamentarians. Since General Khalifa Haftar launched his military offensive against Tripoli, the Libyan parliament has become more divided. some 60 members of parliament boycotted the House of Representatives.
There's
a good number of members of parliament here from the West. More will arrive to Cairo later to discuss with the Egyptian authorities how to have an effective support to Libya and also to bring points of views closer.
Cairo insists that all Libyan blocs are represented in these meetings. 80 MPs will be digging for solutions to break the ongoing fighting over Tripoli. And despite the apparent resentment between Haftar and the head of government of National Accord Faiz al-Sarraj, many are hopeful.
There's always a chance for dialogue. There's always room for hope. There's an ongoing war. One side sees it's rightful, the other sees it's tyranny. Today, our duty is to seek all roads for peace. We must support political dialogue, not war. Let's not forget that the end of any war is peace.
It's another round of talks between Libyan politicians to find and agree on a solution to end the war. While all previous talks were doomed to fail, hope still fills some politicians here that this round might be different. Adil Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
The first China-Africa Forum on Peace and Security is underway in Beijing. The week-long event will host defence ministers and military chiefs. They're expected to discuss issues such as regional security, Sino-African cooperation on peace and security, and building a safe China-Africa community with a shared future. The main focus of the forum will be more technical and specialised exchanges. Analysts say China is strengthening security ties with African nations as its investments across the continent grow and as the United States reduces its military presence there.
China has understood that development is the basis of stability, but also that one cannot have stability without peace and without security. It is important that, beyond the socio-economic aspects, China can support its African partners in the framework of peace and stability. We know that the exchange will focus on terrorism, but we should not conceal the inter-community conflicts and the ethnic conflicts, which take more victims than terrorism currently in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, for example. I think these issues cause even more deaths than terrorism. As an organization working to promote peace and stability, we hope that this meeting will result in the establishment of harmonized anti-terrorist actions, as well as the coordination of anti-terrorist institutions of African countries.
Ethiopia will launch a satellite into orbit in about 3 months' time. The satellite, assembled in China, weighs 70 kilograms and is expected to be used for agricultural research, forest development, water and climate-related work in the country. Here's CGTN's Giram Chala with more.
Ethiopia's plan to launch a satellite into orbit has been there for a while, but now it is time. And in about 3 months' time, the country will join nations with ownership of satellites in the world.
In just a few months' time, Ethiopia will launch its first satellite into orbit. This satellite is intended to be used for agricultural research, forest administration, climate change, as well as drought focus.
It is the support of China which will make this dream a reality. Ethiopia's satellite, which will be ready for launch by September 2019, is being built in a space science center of China located in the suburbs of Beijing. And recently, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has visited the preparations for launch.
An agreement of cooperation between the government of Ethiopia and that of China has been signed. Based on that agreement, and of course with the assistance of China, Ethiopia will launch a 70-kilogram weighing satellite.
Ethiopia spends about $650 million to purchase Earth observation information every year. To launch its satellite, it will cost the country $10 million. It looks like that is a sound investment. Group Dara CGTN, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
We're going to a short break now. Don't go away. Lots more to come, including Egypt opens two of its oldest pyramids to visitors for the first time in 54 years. And Tunisia's tourism revenues edge up in comparison with the same period last year.
Data out of the country. The country's foreign currency reserves.
With a dedicated and diverse team of anchors, CGTN now brings Africa to the palm of your hand.
I'm Perina Karibe in the heart of Nairobi, which is bustling.
From everyday heroes to the continent's most powerful figures, we bring their voices to you.
We haven't changed. And this is something most of us are very excited about.
We bring you news that's changing perspectives. News that brings Africa to the world. CGTN. See the difference. How will your world change today? What happens here? What happens there? Or what you make happen for yourself? If it matters to you, it matters to us too. Your stories are the stories that need to be told. Africa Live. Find your voice. Africa Live. Find your voice.
European military cooperation was at the heart of this year's Bastille Day parade in France. Key EU leaders, including the German Chancellor and the Dutch Prime Minister, joined French President Emmanuel Macron to watch the display. More than 4,000 members of the armed forces marched while fighter jets roared overhead. Better European defence coordination has been one of Macron's key foreign policy goals. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani says the United States has failed to win international support for new sanctions. The US requested a special meeting of the International Atomic Energy Agency after Tehran announced that it was pulling back from the 2015 nuclear deal.
At the United Nations, at various other gatherings, and last week at the International Atomic Energy Agency, it was proven that no country paid attention to their claims. And the IAEA Board of Governors meeting, except for America and a couple of other countries, all countries supported the Iranian nation.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has issued a strong warning to Hezbollah, telling the militant group Israel will deliver a crushing blow if it attempts an attack.
Over the weekend, I heard Nasrallah's arrogant remarks on his attack plans. It should be clear that if Hezbollah dares to do some nonsense and attacks Israel, we will hit him at Lebanon with a crushing military blow. In contrast to Nasrallah, I do not intend to detail our plans. It is enough to recall that Nasrallah had, for years, dug terrorist tunnels, which we destroyed within days.
Well, Netanyahu was reacting to comments made by Lebanon's Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, who said the group's rockets could reach anywhere in Israel. Netanyahu also acknowledged carrying out scores of airstrikes in neighbouring Syria in an attempt to stop sophisticated weapons reaching Hezbollah. Meanwhile, Egypt has opened two of its oldest pyramids to visitors for the first time since 1965. They're in the Danshur necropolis area, about 40 kilometres south of the capital, Cairo. It's home to some of the earliest pyramids, including Sneferu's Bent Pyramid and the Red Pyramid. Officials told reporters that Egyptian archaeologists have also uncovered a collection of stone, clay and wooden sarcophagi, some of them with mummies. Egypt hopes these discoveries will spur tourism. More than 2 weeks after the suicide bombings in downtown Tunis, Tunisia's tourism revenues have edged up in comparison with the same period last year. Authorities assert that attracting Chinese travellers and tourists from traditional European markets are a top priority in the next few months. Here's CG10's Adnan Shawashi with that report.
René Trabilsi is the Minister of Tourism in Tunisia. Has made great effort to restore the image of the tourism sector in the North African country following the recent terror attacks in Tunis. Now he's confident that Tunisia will attract over 9 million tourists this year.
Life goes on even after this crisis, which happens in any country in the world. There are no booking cancellations. The occupancy rate at hotels reached nearly 100%. We'll reach our target of 9 million tourists and even surpass it.
The minister added that Tunisia can welcome over 100,000 Chinese tourists who visit the country to discover its rich civilization, history, and millennial historic sites.
I'm very optimistic about the Chinese market. I've had meetings with travel agencies and businessmen from China. Chinese clients are enthusiastic about visiting Tunisia. The Room Cottage excursion is a fantastic program for Chinese travelers.
According to the Ministry of Tourism and Handicrafts, the number of tourists in Tunisia hit about 3.8 million peak late June. That is up 16.7% compared with the same period last year, while tourism revenues edged up 42.5%. The traditional European markets have also chosen Tunisia as a tourist destination for its proximity and the service quality. Audrey is a French tourist who's visiting the Hammamet Beach Resort for the first time.
My grandparents have been visiting this tourist resort for the past 18 years. They praised the good conditions, so I decided to come to Tunisia for holidays. I'm discovering Tunisia. It's a cool experience.
Tunisian authorities have tightened up the security measures in all regions across the country. No travel bans have been issued for tourists who plan to visit this North African and Mediterranean destination. Adnan Shawashi, CGTN, Tunis.
One of South Africa's premium art scene events, the Turbine Art Fair, has kicked off its 7th edition in Johannesburg. TAF is a unique South African art collaboration that brings together galleries, emerging artists and new buyers from around the country. CT10's Julie Shear has more.
It's one of the events no art lover wants to miss, especially when promising young talent is on display.
Turbine Art Fair is the best way to get your head around new South African art, and the beauty behind it is that not only is it less intimidating than other art events, the pieces on display here are actually affordable.
Well, we have art here ranging from literally from $50 to as much as $8,000, but that's still a very accessible price. And I think people are beginning to realize that for little more than a good pair of shoes price, you can have something that will be an investment piece as long as you choose wisely. So this is a moment for African art where it's really well known, where some years ago it wasn't.
The local art scene has exploded with talent, but their chances of making a career of it is often challenging. TAF offers a mentorship program that lends a hand.
Talent Unlocked is there to provide support for artists who are struggling to make it in the industry. There's a lot of red tape and difficulties to get into galleries. Talent Unlocked works well with artists to come and put together their work with mentors, industry professionals, and they spend 6 months putting together work and having people guide that process for them. It's important for artists to sell their work and to sustain themselves, to even understand the idea of selling, and how to make work that sells, that is commercial. And these kind of spaces helps these artists push and understand that this is what the industry is looking for.
It's a big art fair in Africa, and the fact that they want to promote young and upcoming artists as well, it's an affordable type of art fair, which is more important for most of us as artists. It's not an easy industry. Before, I remember we used to have the Joburg Art Fair, Cape Town Art Fair, but they were not accessible, especially for us, like emerging artists or emerging galleries. They believe in us, they believe in our vision, they believe in our story, and they gave us a shot, And we've been here ever since, you know, yeah, growing strength to strength.
It's giving me the exposure that I really, really wanted for quite some time. I've met a lot of different people that are a bit proud of my work, that really appreciate my work. So I'm thinking it's a good platform for me as an artist.
Durban Art Fair has something for everyone, and this year housed in a bigger venue, it shows how it has grown in strength and elevated South Africa's art market. Julie Shara, CGTN, Johannesburg, South Africa.
All the sports news coming up for you after the break, including Nigeria's Super Eagles prepare for Algeria in Sunday's second semi-final at the Africa Cup of Nations.
You don't find the stories of North Africa by sitting on the sidelines. You've got to get out, go there, and you'll find them. In the bazaars of Casablanca, among the crowds in Cairo,
Who come to visit Cairo, the ancient capital of Egypt.
along the waters of the Nile, along the sands of the Sahara. No one else will take you where we can in North Africa. No one else will show you what it's all about. CGTN, see the difference.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Qanater, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.